From the heart of Kansas City, we bring you Buck and Bob Take on Chiefs Kingdom, a podcast made by fans for fans. I'm Bob, often known for my unpopular takes and a knack for pissing people off.
Yeah, and I'm Buck. I'm your passionate co-host that likes to make bold, uninformed predictions, but I love watching this dynasty dominate today's NFL.
How about those Chiefs?
How about them?
All right, so guys, the show today, we're going to get into what happened in the last game against the
Bears.
Yep, the Bears, unfortunately, where we didn't get to see the cool new quarterback play. But we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about the 53-man roster. And then
big news.
Yeah, and then Buck's got some other things planned. It will leave as a surprise. So you want to get into it?
Yeah.
What do we got for the game? I mean, we didn't record right after the game. We thought we would just get one episode in with our thoughts on the game, the last game of the preseason, and then talk about the 53-man roster. It wasn't a super exciting game for, much, but there definitely was excitement. Steele cemented his case as going to be one of the running backs, and that was, just looking at him, the one play where he stiff arms the dude down after busting through. He's just, he's a freight train going through. He's going to be hard to bring down. Undrafted free agent. How many coaches and staffs are kicking themselves in the butt for not taking him in the 7th or something? Because it's like, pun intended, it's a steal. It's an absolute steal. So that's what my big takeaway was. I know you had.
He also had that kickoff return to the 36 where he rolled over a couple of defenders, and that's my big take on Steele. Is that first guy is going to have a real hard time taking him down every time, and that's a nightmare for NFL defenses.
What came to mind for me was, don't use him much in the beginning. Use that guy in the second half when people just don't want, people are getting tired and they do not want to hit. He's the guy that will just, he's the closer, man. Once you get a nice big lead, then you start just pounding him and Pacheco. Pacheco, been used mostly through the first half. That's how I feel I would use him, because I feel like that would just really, he comes in ready to go in the second half. You could have him in there, special teams and stuff early on. That's kind of how I'm thinking. But I could be completely off. But that would be how I would utilize him if I were in we'll see if that's what Andy does. See if I'm smart or I'm dumb.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. We kind of mentioned a couple other names that he looked like, maybe some Mike Allstott, Jerome Bettis. But it came to my mind, he really looks like Marshawn Lynch out there, because he's got those big bruiser moves. He'll run through defenders, but he'll stiff arm, he'll spin out of move. He's an elusive guy for his size, and I think it was a rare find, man, like a unicorn just kind of hiding in the.
He's patient.
Yeah,
lots of young guys. I remember Edwards, Elaire, and even Pacheco early on, when they were first starting, they would just run into, Edwards, Elaire a lot, and still does it now, but not as bad, but just run right into the back of their own players. There's such a hurry to try and get through the line that they don't, they just run into something. And he comes, you see him just kind of quickly assess, and then you see him take the hole. And I can't believe he made it. We got so lucky.
We really did.
It's unreal.
Yep. So speaking of players that kind of had some good plays during the game, Mecole Hardman had a return to the 44, which is good to see. Honestly, there's a lot of speculation of, was he the wide receiver that we wanted? The last wide receiver, so to speak, that was going to be our special teams guy. I like Mecole Hardman. He's never been the super impressive, awesome, number one wide receiver type, but he's good in the slot.
He's solid.
And he makes the catch. And if he doesn't, he bats it down, which is a big thing for me.
He knows. And it's another thing. People people mention it, but I don't think people get how important it is that he already knows Andy Reid's offense. It's often talked about, some people can come in and get it down right away. Some people can, but a lot of people do struggle with it. I think we'll talk about the cuts later, but I think that's one of the problems we had with one of the cuts that we made in wide receiver, where I thought this guy had a lot of talent, but watching him on the field, he seemed to always be in the wrong spot because he couldn't learn the playbook. And so I think a lot of people don't know how important that is and how, that makes Mecole Hardman a big asset. And just the fact that he can, run with special teams and, that's where he has a lot of value.
I think it also shows what a great coach that Andy Reid is. Also, because, he didn't do anything when he was with the Jets. He was really kind of a flop. And I think that wasn't a Mecole Hardman issue. I think that was a coaching issue. Good coaches are going to be able to pull out the best out of their players. Mecole Hardman is absolutely capable of these things because we see it. As Chiefs fans, we've seen it over the last couple of seasons. So we know it's there. They weren't able to get any of that out of him. Andy Reid can. And he tends to get the best out of most of his players.
What's funny about that is Hardman's good at the jet sweep and he makes the Jets. But
pun intended.
I think that's another thing people don't think about a lot too. Some players could be extremely good, right?
Yep.
But they might not be good for our scheme, or other teams' schemes. Like there's different players fit into different spots, and he just didn't seem to fit into their scheme. And, I don't know. Like, I don't know what really happened there, but it seemed like maybe, just it didn't get along with one of the coaches or something. Something was weird, but yeah, he came back and he was,
solid.
Did some solid things for us last year. And he did, make the final catch in the Super Bowl, and he's like, all that's going through my mind
in history.
Don't drop this pass, So, I think, he had some good plays.
Absolutely. Jaden Hicks, who we've talked about each and every game already this season. He had a fumble recovery on the punt. If you remember in the Bears game, if anybody was still watching at that point. And I know, it's against second, third, fourth string guys, but he still is out there doing it. He's still giving 100% against everybody. He had a phenomenal preseason, man. I think this guy is a diamond in the rough. I'm super excited to see how he elevates his gameplay because he's got a lot to learn. But he's already impressed us with his knowledge and his play on the field. So I'm super excited about his upside, man.
Yeah, me too, especially with Snead just being kind of dinged up and, getting older. And Snead's amazing, but this gives, hopefully Snead's the type of guy that's going to, try to help him get better. But it's just great to have that backup there. And depth is great. I feel like our team has more depth than it's had in a long time, because that was one of the knocks always on the Chiefs is, the 49ers are the better team, but Patrick Mahomes wins. The blah, blah, blah is the better team. Everybody, pretty much every Super Bowl we've been to, they've said blah, blah, blah is the better team, and it's literally been said about every team we've went up against in every Super Bowl.
Yep.
But now our depth is really starting to look amazing, and there's only a couple spots where I'm, a little worried, and that's second cornerback. Hicks is a safety, but
Hicks is a safety, but he's actually listed as a defensive back, which is
both safeties and corners are listed as defensive back. But if you look on the depth chart, it's actually quarterback safety.
But on the roster, they actually do differentiate. There's safeties, there's corners, and then there's defensive backs. And I think, and that was going to kind of be another talking point. It just kind of came up early. I think that the corners are listed as corners because they're corners. Safeties are safeties because they're safeties. And then I think the defensive backs are flexible. They can do a little bit of both. On the depth chart, they've got.
I've never heard that. I've just always heard that you call them all defensive backs. Yep. But I'd be interested. Let us know if you know in the comments or something.
Yeah, that was just my assumption, is that the defensive backs, when they're listed that way, are probably just able to switch back and forth. That's my guess. But yeah, if you know, please leave it in the comments section.
I think I know. Tell us which one of us is right, because I'm pretty sure defensive back just means all safeties and corners. It's just they're lumped in together. But I'd like to know if I'm wrong. I don't ever care if I'm wrong. I just want to be right in the end. So help me get there, guys.
Help us get right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. But yeah, I'm really only worried about defensive end and second corner. That's really all I'm worried about with the Chiefs. And maybe tackles. Maybe tackles a little worried, but I don't know. We got an amazing interior line, guards and center.
Yeah, and I think our tackles got better. As the season progressed and got into the playoffs, there were a lot less penalties called on Jawan Taylor. So I think I feel pretty optimistic about going into this year. I think they probably focused on the lineup and the making sure that wasn't going to be something. I think that we took a little too much out of that. I mean, I know that he did kill some drives with some of his penalties last year, but I really do. I think that they went over that with a fine-tooth comb, and they made sure that, look, this is how we're going to do it this year. We don't want these penalties. Those were silly penalties. Those were lineup penalties. It's not something during the middle of play that was killing them. So it's something that they can definitely address and make sure is good, and they can check before they, start the play. Yeah. So hopefully that's smoothed over a little bit.
Yeah. We lost again, but I don't think anybody cares.
Yeah. Which actually brings me to another point. Another note that I noticed in the Bears game is that there weren't as many penalties, and I think the penalties that they called were legit for the most part. I think the refs actually had a better game. Remember that first game against the Jags? There was the kickoff penalty that was. Who knows if it was right or not? They just kind of made it, and it made a lot of the fans mad. But I think the refs are kind of getting a little better foot on the ground and getting more steady and ready for the season too. So,
well, you talk about the refs, so you're talking about something a little different than the plays,
right?
But
it's all part of the game.
I think I've got something else I want to add about the TV production team, but I think the refs did do a better job, but it all depends on the officiating team, and it's still think that there's a lot of room for improvement, and just all of the officiating teams being on the same page, because Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce have talked about how they actually know there's differences between the teams, and
I'm sure there are. Yeah.
They go into the games sometimes with prior knowledge. Like, these guys really call more holding than any other. Mm-hmm. That's a thing. So I wish there was just a little bit more consistency across the board with them. But my complaint about the broadcast team, now I don't know who is in charge of this, but some games I watch and it's just fine. At all times on the screen is the 3rd and 4 or
the
1st and 10. Yeah.
It's always visible.
I always want also the yard mark there on the field, but no one really does that,
At least they've got the yellow line. That usually kind of helps with that. Yeah.
But I want to always be able to see it, but whoever has done the preseason games, and like half the games usually during the season still have this. I think it might be the Fox crew, but man, it pisses me off. They cover up the 3rd and down thing. They show it right before the play
with advertising.
Well, they show it right before the play, but then every other time they cover it up with some sort of advertising, T-Mobile or some crap. Like, asshole, they're doing it because they know you're looking down there because you want the information.
Yeah.
and they're forcing you to look at this stupid thing. Put T-Mobile underneath it, dicks.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand why they do that, and it's so annoying.
Well, you know why they do it. I mean, you just explained why they do it.
Yeah, you know why they do it,
but it is annoying, especially for
I wonder
those
if
of
they
us.
understand how annoying it is to a lot of people. Tell me in the comments if this drives you nuts too, because it drives me absolutely up the wall.
You know, I think I got that habit from when we were playing Madden together, and it was like, you know, you're picking your play, and you have to look back up. Oh yeah, it's 3rd and 4 here. This isn't a good play, and you get used to looking up and back and forth at that. I mean, because there is 2 to 3 minutes between plays sometimes, and you tend to forget, and you want to remind yourself, yeah, it's right there. And I think that started last year. I don't remember seeing it before last year.
It's been one certain crew, and it's been happening for the last couple of years, the last few years, because I've been complaining about it since I lived those few years in the land of the ugly Broncos territory when I lived in Colorado. Had to go through every Walmart with walls of orange crap on it, but I sported my Chiefs hat everywhere I went. Chiefs gear all over the place.
So yeah, just another couple of notes on the game. Actually, this has nothing to do with the game. I don't know if I've voiced this opinion yet or not, but I hate the new number rules. Absolutely despise them. I like knowing that if I look at number 83, that's a tight end someplace. Now it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Any player can wear any number. I think that I don't understand the upside of that rule whatsoever. If you've got to adjust because, you know, teams have too many offensive linemen, so you got to give them a bigger number block, fine, do that. But, you know, we'll adjust to that. But this, it's, I don't know, it's tough for me. I know most of the Chiefs numbers, so I can look and see, 17, that's Hardman, right? But on the other teams, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you, you know, Russell Wilson's number. I don't care. I only care about our team. So seeing that kind of helps me determine, you know, who was the target on that play. And now it doesn't matter. It could be any number. And I absolutely despise it. Absolutely hate it.
I agree with you completely on this one. And I don't know if it's because we're old men now and get off my lawn type of crap. You know what I mean? Like, it could be that. It could be just we're like, I don't like change. I
just don't see
football, you know,
the advantage to that. I don't
see an advantage to it either. And I liked being able to look at the numbers and just know what position that was. And
yeah, if I want to focus on him on the next play, I'll know where to find him.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean,
it's all willy-nilly now.
It is. It's all over the place. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's like information was taken from us instead of given to us. You know, usually you want to give more information, and this change of the rule just kind of takes information away from us, and I don't get that.
Yeah. The only other thing that kind of happened during the game is we've got a listener of the podcast that's a big Lions fan, and he's an old friend of ours, and he knows of my dislike for Kadarius Toney, at least as a Chief, right? And so he said he was going to buy me a Kadarius Toney jersey. I still don't believe it, but you know, now it's going to be a lot cheaper, right? So here's my unpopular opinion, and this may be the most unpopular opinion in the history of mankind, but I think that players' jerseys should only be sold in the size that they wear them on the field, right? So if you're going to buy a Tyreek Hill jersey, that's for a 13-year-old boy, right? So I'm a Creed Humphrey kind of guy. I want a big old jersey. I don't know how I'd fit into a Toney jersey, but I'll tell you what, if he buys that jersey for me, I will wear it on the show, even though in honor of him no longer being a Chief.
Okay, I think that's a horrible idea. And it's just, you know, takes away inclusivity.
Yeah, it'll never happen. It'll never happen.
I'd be fine because I'd be a Patrick Mahomes guy because I'm almost the exact same height and weight as him after I lose a few more pounds.
Well, I'm grandfathered in because I already got my Mahomes jersey in my size. So you're not getting that back, but in the future, that's how I feel it should be.
But it would be horrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, the best jerseys you could get are the ones that they wore on field, and that is their size.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
But awesome. If you get those, usually you're going to get them signed, and usually you're going to frame them.
God, I'd love to have a Creed Humphrey signed jersey. Oh my God. I love that guy. So as far as the preseason went, something that we're going to talk about in the future for the different games is strategic plans and different plays and things that we noticed during the season. There wasn't a whole lot of that during the preseason to cover. Just a couple of notes. That Andy Reid comes out in the preseason and he's vanilla, right? We did see a couple of strokes of creativity with the backhand, the backwards or behind the back pass. You saw a couple of scrambling drills, nothing too exotic. But I kind of expected that from Andy Reid. He doesn't want to show his hand. So I think I know that this preseason was clearly about development and analyzing players. They didn't give two rats' asses about winning games because that's not what the preseason is about. And I know that's how it is with all the teams, but you can tell when you're watching the Bears or you're watching the Jaguars, they want to beat this Kansas City Chiefs team, even if it means a preseason game. That was a big, big win for them. And that's fine. But I think as Chiefs fans, we don't need to take anything from the losses in the preseason. I think we got way more information about who's best for this 54-man roster than we would have ever gotten satisfaction out of wins in those games. Well, so I think that this preseason was really successful.
So on the backwards pass was definitely planned to get in there too. It's basically just, they might not even use it at all during the season, but it was extremely smart because what they're doing there is
show them.
Yeah,
show them what can happen.
They're giving teams one more thing to have a headache about, worrying about, and preparing for it. That was great. But as far as the losses, I'd like everybody just to look back. I should have brought that number, but if you look back since Andy Reid has been here, we've got way more losses than wins in the preseason. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost par for the course for Andy to only win one preseason game or none. And we had 4 for it's only been the last few years that we've only had 3. And I mean, we would go 1-4 all the time.
Yeah.
And so you should never judge the game by that, or the team by that. I mean, he's not giving stuff away. He's looking at players that aren't for sure on the roster. I mean, that's what's going on during the preseason, and just trying to knock some rust off of, the for sure starters here and there. So I think the preseason was great.
Now, as far as what worked well and what didn't work so well in the preseason that I noted, I think that the defense didn't look awesome. The first team defense didn't look awesome. But if we look back on Spags' history just here in Kansas City, we know that they start off slow. We know that they start off looking like they don't really know what they're doing. Spags is notorious for having very difficult schemes. But I think that where they are right now, as compared to where they were before game one in previous seasons, I'm still very optimistic that our defense is going to start off better than they have started off in the past. And then we know how they end up the season. They're always way, way, way more effective as a defense towards the end of the season. So I think even though the defense doesn't look great, I think they look good. And I'm excited to see how good this defense actually gets, mid-season.
Yeah, it did worry me a little bit about pressure and stuff, because it just kind of pointed out how important Chris Jones is to the defensive line, because put Chris Jones in, Karlaftis looks like a premium, like grade A plus defensive end.
Yeah.
Take Jones out, Karlaftis
is a good defense end.
Good-ish, maybe just okay. I mean, he never gives up and everything, but he doesn't have that blast power that you would have from a premium outside pass rusher. And so Chris Jones just takes double teams and takes that stuff and just makes the defensive ends look so much better. And so that worries me about his health and just having him in the game. But, also when Adoku comes back, is that how you say his name? Adokin. The defensive end that's on our injured reserve right now. Aminihu. That's what it is.
Yeah, Aminihu.
Number 90. He is really good too. So getting him back will be a huge thing too. So defensive line, I just can't really judge the defense because everything's going to be so much faster with the pressure that Chris Jones will give. And then when, I forgot his name again. Number 90 comes back.
Aminihu,
yeah. When he comes back, I think it'll be, unless the injury really messed him up, I think he'll be really good. So I feel pretty good about how our D looks, but it's just the preseason, I don't think means anything just because so much depends on that line.
Yeah. Yeah, the other note I wanted to take away from the preseason is our offense and this new the new wide receiver room, and it is almost completely revamped from last year, which is a great thing. But I want to keep myself from getting too overexcited too quickly. I really think it's going to take 2 or 3 games for these guys to really kind of mesh on the field together as an offensive unit. We didn't see them together on the field a whole lot in the preseason, so there's going to be some rust. There's going to be some getting to know you moments. If you remember in the season, the second game of the preseason, especially at the very beginning, they were absolutely targeting Worthy. I mean, they were trying to get Mahomes and Worthy into a rhythm together, and it will happen. I just don't think it's going to be. We're not going to see fireworks 500 yards passing from Mahomes in the first game. I don't think. I think it'll take a couple games for them to really mesh. So don't get too down on them if they're not performing at top level for the first couple of games. I still think that we got enough to beat, to beat the Ravens and the Bengals, even if we're not at top speed, so to speak. But I do think it'll take a couple of games to really see them mesh.
We'll have to see what happens we still don't know when Hollywood Brown's coming back. And so that's a big question mark, but he's had weeks to recover. He got injured, and then I believe it's like 5 weeks later when the actual season starts. 4 to 5 weeks later, because you get a week off where that preseason game used to be. So I'm interested to see when he comes back, but I think when he's back, I think you're going to see stuff early. I think they're going to come out blasting right off the bat. So
when he comes
worry
back
about it at all.
The rest of the team is already, the rest of the wide receiver room, they're already going to have their warm up period, I think, with Mahomes. So I think he'll integrate a lot quicker than the whole offense together is going to try to warm up to each other. So yeah, I like I said, I don't think we have anything to worry about. I just don't think that we're going to see what we're expecting to see for a couple of games, because I'm expecting to see greatness. I truly am. I think
it's going to happen game 1.
You think so?
Yeah. I think.
I hope.
I think there was more likely a 3rd to 4th game stutter where we finally show our cards and teams start to game plan against the new cards and the new schemes with our new wide receiver room. And I think that's where the stump's going to come. And I think the Chiefs will figure it out, but I think that's where it's first going to come,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're going to come out and just ball for the first game.
I would absolutely love to see it.
It is going to be a tough opponent, but I think we're going to come out and look good. But we'll see. Let's talk about the roster.
Well, hold on. Before we get to the roster, let's just end off the preseason talk here real quick. I just had one thing, the player spotlight.
Okay.
So I had an offensive player of the preseason and a defensive player of the preseason, and I don't think it's going to really come to anybody's surprise either one Carson Steele was absolutely the standout offensively. I think he surprised everyone outside of the Chiefs organization, of course, with his dominating run style and the ability to break multiple tackles, not just one, but multiple tackles, stiff arms, jukes. I mean, it was incredible.
And how comfortable he was right off the bat.
He really was. I think personality-wise, he really meshes with this team. He's a little odd, right? He owns a crocodile. Alligator. Since
it's just named Crocky.
It's named Crocky. And he's, he kind of jokes about it, but it's his pet. He loves it. It's just a weird thing. And I think it just really meshes with this team and the way that Andy Reid lets the team be themselves. And I think it makes everybody more comfortable. It's a more inviting atmosphere for guys. So I think he's going to work real well with this offense, and I'm super excited after watching the preseason to see what he does.
Yeah, just from early on interviews, it seems like everybody talks about the intangibles. Well, one of the intangibles I look at is personality, and off the first impression, he looks to have an extremely kind and fun and just good vibes. I don't know how else to explain it. Like when the guy talks, you want to just buy him a beer and just have
listen to him.
Yeah, just have a chill time with him. Like that's what he comes off as. And it could be all an act, but it doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't seem like it. No. I think he fits in well. So then my defensive player of the preseason was Jaden Hicks. He came up big in each and every game, sometimes 2 or 3 big plays in a game. His attitude, he had an interview, and he was very personable. One thing that I watch for in the interviews is how the guys talk, right? They're saying all the right things because they know the right things to say. How do they come off on camera? A lot of guys look stiff, especially when they're rookies. They come off stiff. They're saying the right things, and you can kind of tell they're thinking in their head, "What do I got to say next?" And he just wasn't like that. He was talking from the heart. He had spirit. He had charisma, just kind of like Carson Steele. He just fits in with the team, and he's. I mean, the play that his performance on the field was so impressive. And again, he's going to be working with Spags all season long. So I honestly kind of expect him to jump into a starter role at some point in the season. I really do. Yeah, we'll see who he takes over, but
I can't argue. He would be my pick too. Haven't gotten to see him speak at any of the press conferences. I must have missed that one somehow, but yeah, I can't think of any other defensive player, that stood out to me like he did, and, we're not really talking about starters here, guys. We're talking about new guys, basically, in our standout players, and you don't see the starters much. I mean, it's just.
Maybe. I mean, if the Chiefs come out with a fullback formation, then Carson Steele would be considered a starter. And like I said, I truly feel that Hicks is going to compete for a starter spot at some point this season, maybe sooner rather than later. So maybe we are talking about starters. But they definitely stood out on this team. And this is a team of standout guys. I mean, we've got some superstars at a lot of different spots. So super excited to what they're going to bring this season. We're going to be watching closely.
And we'd be interested to hear what you guys,
who stood out to you?
You can email us, or you can, BuknBob@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on the YouTube. You can leave a comment on Spotify, I believe. So yeah, let us know. And I think that's that's
that
good.
covers the preseason. Yeah, and the last game.
Let's look at this 53-man roster, and right off the bat, it was extremely scary for me. First off, yesterday we were hanging out with that. How about those Chiefs guy on YouTube? He was doing a stream, and we were expected to hear, 10, 15 minutes after the cuts were due in, we were expected to hear from the Chiefs, social team, to tweet out like who's been cut, blah, blah, blah. 3.5 hours later,
Yeah.
all the information starts coming in, and poor Cole from the How About Those Chiefs channel
He's live the whole time.
He's live the whole time and just sitting there, and people trolling him the whole time, be like, "Oh, it's up on it's up on Twitter now," and he'd go look, and it wasn't, and it just kept getting trolled, and then everybody with their stupid joke of, "I wonder if Mahomes is going to make the roster." It's like, guys,
that was funny 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it wasn't even funny then. It was a dad joke then, and now it's a grandpa joke. Like, chill with it, But we were watching that, and when the information first came in, I did the same thing that Cole did at the same time, like during his stream, and I was like, "Oh my God, where's Steele? He's not there." And you just had to look down just a smidge to see fullback, because he's listed as a fullback instead of a halfback. It was scary.
Yeah, some of the things that I kind of made note of is we kept 8 wide receivers. I expected 6 or 7. I definitely didn't expect 8. I don't know what that really tells me. I kind of expected a little bit less so that we could use those spots on some other guys. But as far as the guys that didn't make it, the notable players that were either waived or released, I call this segment the Bye Bye Tony segment. Kadarius Toney is gone. Hallelujah. Deneric Prince sadly didn't make the team. I know we were kind of watching him. You were really high on him going into the preseason.
Yeah, I was hoping. I wasn't high on him. I was hopeful. And my hopefulness did not pay out.
I think it was because he did have a really good run, like a really solid run where he had to break out to the outside. And once he got there, he really turned on the Jets. And I think that Steele kind of stole the spotlight. I think he was taking Prince's time in the second and third game. But that you got to take that opportunity when you get it. And he just wasn't able to really cash in on that opportunity early enough and big enough to take Steele's spot. So I think going into the preseason, that was probably Prince's spot, but Steele definitely took it, and it wasn't even close.
Well, so you said we kept how many wide receivers?
8. I actually have them listed by wide receiver.
Kyle Sheets made it?
Uh-huh. Yes, he did.
Interesting. Over Washington.
I don't remember seeing Kyle Sheets even do anything in the preseason, so they must be super high on him.
Is he the one? Did we do a last-minute trade for him or something?
No, he was not a last-minute trade. We picked up
remember seeing
a tight
much
end
from
and a D
him
end
at all.
Yeah.
And, Washington, I thought did really good. Powell, I thought did really good, which we waived both of those guys.
Yep.
And I think Powell and Washington are probably going to get picked up by other teams.
I agree.
I think they're not going to clear waivers, but if they do, I think that great for the practice squad. But Kyle Sheets, I need to look into him. I was kind of like, I didn't notice that yesterday. I was looking at the cuts rather than looking at the depth chart. And so, whoa, okay, all right. I have to check out Kyle Sheets. Sky Moore, I think they're just holding on to him for maybe an early start of the season trade for a 6th or a 7th round pick, maybe, or something. I don't know. You've got Hardman for returns. Sky Moore, man, I don't want him. Some people say just no punt returns and he could return kickoffs. I don't want him returning either, man. He's dropped too many for me to have any trust in him. There's no reason
for him to be in the return at this point.
He's got bad juju.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the depth chart, though, Kyle Sheets is not listed on the receiving team of the depth chart. They've only got 6 wide receivers, actually, and that's from Chiefs.com. So that's straight from the source there. So.
Yeah, but they don't have. They also don't have Juju Smith-Schuster. Ooh, let's talk about that first.
Yeah,
Juju. So just a few days ago, like a day before the cutoffs, Juju was a
Patriot.
Well, no, he was released by the Patriots a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
But Juju all of a sudden signs with the Chiefs, and he signs a veteran minimum deal. It's like $900K or something like that. It's something low, but it doesn't matter because he's getting paid $8 million guaranteed from the Patriots this year. So it was pretty much a steal. But everybody is saying, he's washed up. But I don't know. I mean, he was on a horrible team last year, and just the year before, I mean, he had like 900 yards, with the Chiefs. So, I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to get more out of him, and he's the same type of strength that Rashid Rice is. And so Rashid Rice, with, still not knowing if he's going to get suspended or not, I think it's a really good thing to have depth there. And I think he's going to be just fine here, where he was not fine there.
Yeah, well, when you've got a world-class quarterback that can scramble, anything's possible. Really, what you're expected to do is just stay open and keep playing through the play until it's over.
And Juju,
and he knows that.
Yeah, Juju never had real, he didn't have breakaway speed or anything like that. He just was really good at finding the soft spots in the zones, and especially when Mahomes would scramble. That was something he was always doing. And, people say that he doesn't take the game he doesn't take the game serious, and they worry about his TikTok stuff and his streaming and stuff. But every time he came out there playing for the Chiefs, I felt like he was hungry, and he was, his mind and body were, focused on the game. So I'm excited about this grab, especially at the price we got.
Yep. Yeah, a couple other notables that were waived or released. Louis Rees-Zammit, I was really kind of excited and up on him starting the preseason. I think it was pretty obvious he's just not ready for the NFL yet, but I think his upside is really good. I'm afraid he's going to be picked up by another team because I think he can be productive. But I think it'll be a couple of seasons before we see any potential standout ability on his end. So I don't think he will stay on the practice squad. I think he'll probably be picked up. But I'd love to see him stay on the practice squad because with Andy Reid, all things are possible, and he loves to put players in the best position for them to succeed on this team. So his upside, I think, is pretty good if he can stick around.
I'll agree with you on getting picked up on waivers, but for a different reason. Because he does have upside, I think a lot of people do see that. I think the fact that he could be put on the 54th man exempt. What's it exactly called? It's four foreign players. Yeah. He could be put on that. If a team doesn't have someone that they really feel good about, they could drop them, pick him up, and put him on as the exempt one. And, I think we'll just have to see. It's very possible that, a team with maybe a really old kicker that they don't want out on the field during the kickoff returns and stuff. Maybe. I don't know. We could see it happening though. That's why I think he might get picked up, but I don't think his play showed anything. I agree. I think he was actually decent on the special teams. He really was kind of solid on special teams. It was just his offensive play, which is what I was really kind of hoping for, was his offensive ability. So I think he's got a lot to offer different teams. So I just think his flexibility will probably help him get onto another team. Yeah, as you said, the kickoffs, it definitely could be. Everybody says, that he runs too upright, but as you pointed out on an episode not too long ago, that's how Tiki Barber ran.
Yep,
and he had a good career. Yeah. So,
yep.
I mean,
he did okay for himself.
Yeah, so I don't know that that's a deal breaker.
His playing style too.
He had to change his carrying style.
Yeah,
but not. I mean, he always ran straight up and down, man. So I think that Zammit can make it work, and maybe they should have shown him film of Tiki Barber. That I didn't even think about that till you mentioned it on the show a episode or two back.
He'll have to gain a little weight if he wants to follow in those footsteps. Tiki was a stocky guy.
Was he that big?
Yeah, he was.
I don't remember him being that big.
Pretty big dude.
He was short though, wasn't he?
Yeah. Another notable that didn't make the team, Nico Remigio. I'm actually kind of sad about this one. I really thought he did way more than enough to make this team. If it were me, I'd put him in place of Sky Moore.
I think I would have too.
I
feel like I would have too.
And not to say I've not been down on Sky Moore as much as other people. I think he was unfortunately placed in a position that he wasn't ready for when he fumbled those punt and kickoff returns a couple of seasons ago. He gets a lot of flack for that, but that's not his strong point. And so, but when he was playing on the offense, he made his catches. He didn't flip the ball up for other teams to intercept. That's a big thing for me. Because turnovers are game killers, they're season killers, right? And for me, that's why Tony had to go. I don't see that out of Sky Moore, but I definitely would have rather seen Remigio. I think his upside is at this point better than Sky Moore's, but the Chiefs clearly don't agree with us on this one.
I think so too. One thing I've heard about Sky Moore is everybody likes him, which kind of cracks me up because he always seems like a jerk when he gets a good play and he celebrates so hard for such a small gain.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude,
I don't like that.
Stop.
Celebrate for a touchdown.
If Kelsey, when you get a first down, he does some stuff.
Yeah, he does.
But he's earned it.
Yep.
I mean, it's just he over celebrates. But I've heard that everybody loves him and that he's friends with everybody, and I've heard he's really nice to everybody. He's a really kind dude. So, I mean,
and I know that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but I agree with you on this one. It means a lot
in the locker room, dude.
It does, and it means a lot to me. I like to know that the guys I'm rooting for are good guys. I don't want to root for the asshole.
Yeah, Terrell Owens.
Yeah,
I mean, unbelievable player. Mm-hmm. Cancer in the locker room. Cancer for everybody. Nobody liked him. Yep. I mean, that guy's a cancer. Yep. But then you look at like Chad Brown. Wait, is that it? Chad Brown?
I don't know.
Chad Brown. The Bengals? Chad Johnson. Ochocinco. Yeah, you look at him, like up a very positive for the locker room. Guy always showed up early, stayed late, was down to help, but he had the same, on the field antics that were kind of like, oh my gosh. I don't know why the names just jump out of me. Literally just Terrell Owens.
Oh yeah, T.O.
Same kind of on-field antics, but in the locker room,
different,
complete teammate, opposite. Yeah. And so that's kind of maybe what I'm thinking Moore is, he doesn't do that stuff, it's like a game, he's different in the game than he is in the locker room. That's all I could guess because everybody says that he is just beloved.
So my only other notable that we lost would be Justin Ross.
That's the one I wanted to talk about.
I know you did.
That's the one, tons of talent, but can't learn the scheme. He's always in the wrong spot, lining up in the wrong spot oftentimes during this preseason. And he's had years now to study the scheme, Andy Reid's stuff, and he still can't get it down. And it's a bummer because backyard football, that guy would be a beast, but he's not shaping up.
Maybe he'll go join the flag football Olympic team.
Well, and what's crazy is, lots of these guys could end up going and playing for the other league. I need to watch that league because I didn't watch any of it. I've watched little bits of games here and there, but a lot of players are getting more opportunities to go over there and kind of showcase what they could do in the NFL. So I think it's a good thing, and I think I should start paying into it.
So out of these guys that we've talked about, who's going to make the practice squad? Who's going to be moved? Can we just agree that Kadarius Toney needs to be picked up?
Yeah, well, hopefully, so we can get
get rid of him,
the cap hit, but
just be done.
I don't want him on the practice squad, but I do want to go over just Swayze Bozeman. I was a little surprised at him. I was a little surprised that he looked pretty good, I thought, but we're just deep at linebacker,
We are,
I guess.
yeah.
And
I think he'll be picked up. I really do. He like you said, he had some flashes. And even when he wasn't being named, like you saw his number a lot. He was around the ball a lot. And with a linebacker, that's really kind of what you want. Somebody that can swarm to the ball very quickly. So, I think he'll probably be picked up, which is a detriment to this team. But when you're so deep at linebacker, it's a loss you kind of got to take.
And the other, you talked about Nico, and I agree that I would rather have Nico over Sky, but I almost think I would have taken Cornell Powell or Montrell Washington over Sky. I thought they showed good upside. Cornell Powell, I really thought looked like he could be a beast of a wide receiver.
He had a couple of good catches. He had one beautiful catch that was out of bounds. I believe it was the first game, but he came down with the ball. He held on to it after the catch, going to the ground. I agree. I've seen enough out of Sky Moore that I'm okay with him being on this team, but I do agree that, there were probably 2 or 3 other guys that didn't make the team that I probably would have rather seen on the team. We also don't know what's going on in the locker room. So we don't know how these guys are getting along with other guys. That's always a big question. When they're asked about it, they're always, the coaching staff and other players are always going to say, oh, he's a good guy, hard worker. It's just kind of what you do. But you kind of wonder.
It's really lame.
It is lame, but
I wish. Wouldn't it be funny if you could do the liar thing to him, and it's just everybody was forced to say the truth while they were
truth dust before they go on the podium.
And it's like, now the dude's a total jerk, and he's always doing this one thing that annoys me with his lips. He's always making this popping sound,
like Kelsey did in the interview, talking about how Patrick Mahomes talks.
He's like, I don't know, he mumbles a lot. You're just like
both of those interviews were very refreshing because of the jabbing between friends. That was cool. But no, I agree. I think that'd be cool if they could just speak their mind, but they can't. That's not what you do. You try and pump up your guys.
You can get rumors and stuff. There was all kinds of rumors when Eric Bieniemy was our offensive coordinator, and a lot of them probably sounded true, but
sure.
In retrospect, going back and looking at it, it looked like they were a good team because
of that.
Because Eric played bad cop and Andy played good cop, and I think Eric did demand a lot of our players, but you heard rumors about him just being the biggest jerk and being extremely hard to work with, and you saw him and Patrick Mahomes get into it a couple different times during games.
And when asked about it, Patrick Mahomes, it was giving the company answer, so to speak. And if you try to read between the lines, not what he's saying, but how he's saying it and what words he's choosing, there were a few times that I was like, oh, I don't think these two really like each other very much. And when to me, I think the change to go away from Bieniemy was a good one ultimately, but I never had I wasn't beating the drum for him to leave. Our offense was successful with him. So if they don't get along in the locker room or on the sidelines all that great, I don't have the biggest problem with that, because in Andy Reid, I trust fully. So if that's his pick, that's his pick. But I think, I think that Bieniemy moving away was probably the best, even though we did kind of struggle starting off with Matt Nagy again. But I think all in all, I think we're in a better spot right now. But I did like Eric Bieniemy as a coach. I really did. And knowing his aggressive personality and his kind of sandpaper-like dealing with things and with players, especially on the sidelines during games. So we definitely saw a few blow-ups. So,
yep.
Well, what do you think? So the depth chart, we kind of went over that a little bit. Your Kyle Sheets isn't even listed as a wide receiver on the depth chart. So Where he ends up and why he was chosen for the team is still definitely a question. We'll have to look into that a little bit more.
Juju's not there either.
Juju's not there either. I think that the Juju thing might just be because he had just joined the team and maybe they already had this list filled out. It's hard to say. I haven't been closely monitoring the Chiefs.com website as far as the depth chart is concerned because it hadn't been updated in quite some time. So the only thing that, and this is just kind of a weird little thing to notice, but if you look at right tackle, for instance, you got Jawan Taylor listed as the first right tackle. We don't have a second right tackle, but we have a third right tackle, Ethan Driscoll. So why isn't he in the second? Do they have somebody else planned for that? Do they plan on moving guys around, or is it just because the guy that was filling in the list just didn't move his name over? It's hard to say. I'm sure as we get closer to game one, this will be edited probably a few times. So I will definitely keep track of this a lot closer going forward.
And it's the 53-man roster. Now remind me, you don't suit 53, do you?
No.
You don't suit up 53.
No.
So he's probably just not suiting up if all of these people are in.
Yeah.
And Juju might not either because, he's just gotten back in.
Maybe he's very similar to Rashee Rice as far as size and speed and capability and whatnot. And maybe they're just preemptively kind of preparing for if something does happen with Rice during the season. I don't think it will. I think, most of the sports talk radio hosts in the city think that this is going to be a before the season type of penalty. So if he hasn't been given that penalty yet by the beginning of the season, most of the minds that think football think that he'll probably wait until next season. So, but if something does happen, maybe he's just a backup for him. I don't know. It's hard to say.
With this 6 though, I would switch out Sky Moore and put in Juju.
Yeah.
And just have Mecole Hardman and Steele returning kickoffs and then just switch between them returning punts. And I don't see a reason to have Sky suit up.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of Steele returning kickoffs, you want to kind of talk about the new kickoff meta? I mean, I think they kind of touched on it in the last broadcast of how teams are starting to kind of look at the way the kickoff rules are affecting them. And, they were saying that they might just start kicking it deep into the end zone and just get rid of it. But I think that, Andy Reid putting Hardman and then Steele in the backfield, Steele would be a great blocker, but we saw him return the ball, and he returned the ball for quite a good return. So having a big, full back type in the backfield with your speedy return guy might just be the new meta. I mean, it's definitely not something I would have seen going into the season.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And, if he gets it too, him running it is going to be good, but just having him in there blocking too, just that first lead block to break out Hardman. I mean, that could be huge. So I'm interested to see how it all goes. But also the kickoff rules,
they're still not
unless
cemented.
They cement it before the season starts and say, if it's down in the end zone or if it doesn't make it to the, if it's kicked short and doesn't make it to the drop zone, then it just always goes to the 40, because looking at the average return stats, teams are, they're doing returns in the preseason because they don't want the owners to change the rule, because they just want to have it at the freaking 30.
Yeah.
But I think as soon as the season starts, if they keep it there, if they keep the rules the way they are, we're just going to go right back to kickoffs,
kicking it out of the end zone. Yeah.
So hopefully the owners are getting together. They might have. It's really soon. They're getting together. They could vote it, but it's lots of people think that they're not going. They're going to let it breathe for a season, and I think all it's going to do is just people aren't going to return. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that the NFL changing the kickoff rules to promote more returns, I think, is definitely the way that I want to see the game go forward, because kickoffs are just boring, right? And that's what they're trying to do. So I feel very passionately that every single game should be ruled and refereed the same. So whatever rules they go into game one with, I think they need to come out of the Super Bowl with for that season, and then make any changes after the season is over. I hate it when they change rules in the middle of a season. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. If they change it halfway through the season, I think that looks really bad.
Yeah.
And if they change it right before the playoffs, that's really bad too.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
It was fine to have changes going through the preseason, but it should cement at the start. And I really think if we want to have exciting kickoffs, then we really need to change it to where you just go to the 40 if the kick isn't put right in the zone.
Yeah.
And that's what should happen.
Yep, I completely agree. But I think we're going in the right direction with the kickoffs. I just hope that they make that rule soon. They do have a week and a day, or a week and a day.
Yep.
So
they
got some time to mull it over
until we kick off the NFL.
Oh, what a season this is going to be, man. Three-peat. Are you guys ready for that? I'm ready for a three-peat. Never happened.
Yep. It was interesting, the trades for the defensive end. I haven't looked into Cameron Thomas or what he's done in the past, but that was, I was talking about defensive end. I'm interested to see what he's all about. And then the tight end was a weird grab too.
Yeah, Peyton Hendershot. Yeah. I mean, I know that they're kind of high on him. Where's he listed on the depth chart? He's not yet. So that was another late pickup, kind of with Juju fashion. I think he'll be added to the depth chart pretty soon. It's hard to say. Noah Gray and Jared Wiley have been solid in the past. They're no Travis Kelce, but they're good, solid tight ends. So we need to see, is this guy a blocking tight end? Is he a receiver? What kind of specialty does he have? But I feel fairly confident he won't be the starter, at least for a couple seasons.
Who?
Peyton Hendershot.
Oh yeah, I don't think so either. I think we're sitting fine there. Although, yeah,
it's just a weird pickup because we don't know why they did it. They seem to be solid at tight end, so
special teams maybe. I don't
possibly,
know. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll do a little more research before the first game. Yeah.
But
tell us what you guys think.
Yeah, it's going to be a good season. So for the end here, we want to talk about something new that we want to try. It's worked really well for my other podcast. I've done a lot of different podcasts over the years, but currently just I've done ones that, like We Are Survivors, which was all about the game, The Last of Us, but it was a two season thing where we just went over the games and the storylines of the games, and then it's done. So I've done a lot of projects like that. I've been part of shows that have come to an end. I've done a lot of podcasts now, but currently I'm doing Warcraft Reloaded, and we've had a really cool thing that I just got from old school radio shows. I just thought about the old call-in numbers. And so we've done this on Warcraft Reload. We've had fans call in to a call-in number, and you just leave a voicemail, and then we use it as talking points on the next show. And it's worked out really cool. You guys are probably listening on a drive. I know lots of podcast listeners are people that drive for UPS, FedEx, mailmen and women,
delivery drivers.
People that stock shelves, people that work in warehouses, IT people. I used to listen to podcasts and books on tape constantly when I worked in IT.
Yep.
And anything where you could do that, those are you're oftentimes able to make a call, and at that point, you can call us, and you can call us at 816-866-1066 and leave us a voicemail and
say whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool thing and gives us that old school feel. And we're going to start trying it out here. And hopefully we get some calls in from you guys and we can play them on the show.
Yeah, I can't wait. I got a feeling I know a couple of different people that might call in and leave us something, and I can't wait to hear what they got to say. I know that our friend Damien, when he was watching our Chiefs Lions coverage, there were a couple of times he said he was just screaming like, I've got something to say right now, and now you can do it. You can literally call in and say what you feel.
That's what podcasts are supposed to be. You're supposed to scream back at it and be like, no, you're wrong, or oh, I totally agree with that. That's the fun of it.
Yep.
But now you can call us and tell us what you think. So I think it'll be cool. So it's 816-866-1066. Give us a call and we'll play it on the show.
Yeah, you can also find us at BuknBob@gmail.com. That's all one word, BUKNBOB @gmail. You can find all of our links at Linktree/BuknBob. Again, all one word, BUKNBOB.
And it's linktr.ee/BuknBob. It's, if you've ever seen it, it's just a site that takes you to all of our links so you can have it all in one spot. But if you search Buck and Bob, BUKNBOB, on many platforms, we're on with that name on most of them. So should be able to find us. And
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
Yep. Where can we find you?
You can always find me on Facebook, Bucktastic. You can also find me on Twitter. It's at Bucktastic, BUK_TASTIK.
And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. It's BLAZZIN_BOB. And you can find me all over the place. I mean,
oh yeah, you're everywhere, buddy.
Yeah. I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So give us a call, send us a message, leave comments, whatever. Really enjoyed doing this show. Can't wait to do the rest of the season. Thanks for listening.
And until next time, we'll see you later.
Go Chiefs.
Chiefs.